Hello, my name is Fernando Bender, and I decided last minute to make this video. It's about Bitcoin, like what's does it have really in use? And there are a lot of practices that are currently happening over not just Bitcoin, but other cryptocurrencies and in the blockchain space that are very much questionable. And a lot of people are losing money in this. I'm talking about the clients and well, what's behind that? So let's start from the beginning. Well, Bitcoin is a technology, of course, based on the blockchain. And what the heck is a blockchain? Well, it's a public register. It's a ledger. Is a public registry that anyone can publish whatever there within limited space, and they do this through a transaction, and this transaction move units that are called satoshis, and this is it. It's all about that. There's not a Bitcoin there are satoshis. But if you have, I don't know, 10 billion satoshis, then you get something that's called a Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is a collection of satoshis. Okay, like anyway, so you can make transactions there that have literally very few cost, but they will let in this registry nominally forever, assuming the system keeps running, the information that you send. Now, what's the value of that? Well, what's the value of sending a message? It depends who sent, to whom, and what was said. Like the president of a country can say, okay, enough, let's make peace. That on itself is potentially valuable, but if he's saying this to his driver, it might not have much value coming through out of it. So it depends on the use case. Okay, but clearly, if this message can be registered, then its potential value can be unlocked, can be unleashed in a specific application. So that's it. For example, a binding contract between nations that will abide to that and finally get to peace, not like Minsk II, that was a hoax to postpone the inevitable. Anyway, coming back, talking about corporate applications, or that you can extrapolate for any other area, there is a problem of internet working. You have companies that work together. They can be client supplier. They can be, I don't know, partners, company that are partnering in a project. Okay, like a consultancy firm and the client, or anyway, and they need to exchange data. So how they do that? Well, in the days before internet, you was going to record that thing on a tape or on a floppy disk, and we'll go there physically to transport it there, so it's run there. Of course, that has a lot of problems, but one of them that it doesn't is authenticity, because you know the guy who is bringing it. Like you can see the person, like, okay, he brought this. The authenticity of the information still needs to be, or correctness also of the information still needs to be checked. But anyway, but clearly you cannot have this in worldwide scale. So internet brought this. So now you can send this through an email or as a file through the internet to someone, I don't know what, but this is old talk. But the point, so what's the problem on that? Well, the application that you are running, or for example, the mail server might belong to a company. For example, Google runs Gmail. So let's say that they, from one day to another, they say, okay, from now on, all Syrian citizens cannot have an account on Gmail. So what will those citizens do? They are need to resort to other email provider that still have not issued the same order. But what about the previous emails, the previous message? they might be lost, you know. So to prevent this, it would be good if you could have a decentralized service where no one can issue such thing. So everyone, everywhere has access to this. Now, how do you do that? Well, blockchain is the perfect means for that. But wait, what does that have to do with Bitcoin? Well, absolutely nothing, because Bitcoin is something that I don't know for which reason people pay more than $10,000. But sending a package in the internet in a way that no one can block it or prevent it to be sent, that's another ball game. And that's what this type of technology provides. But can you do this right now in Bitcoin blockchain? Of course you can. But is it pleasant to do? Is it easy to do? Are there tools to make it user friendly? No, there are not. So it's an incomplete system. Understand? It's an incomplete system in this regard. Now let's think something more about that. You have companies with their own system, and those systems needs to exchange data. Now, how do they do that? Well, you can agree on a pre-formatted way of exchanging the data. For example, this system dumps a file, and this file, once it reaches the next system, it can be imported. That's good, that works. But you need to agree first that I need to convert the data I'm running in the format that I will transport that. And this format needs to be agreed between the companies up front. And there have been a lot of problems this throughout our recent history, which is, for example, when you throw a signal in the air for a television, and how will you code the image, the contour, the colors, this, how, which standard will you use? And the receiver must understand this standard and be able to decode it and then show it in the screen. Otherwise, it will not work, the receiver, right? So these are points that have already been very well solved. However, it's nonetheless troublesome, because you might need to have a standard for this group of companies, maybe from a country or from a specific business group, and maybe another for this one and another for that one. And somehow they might not become compatible. So if you want to scale up this thing, it might not be easy. Now think of a blockchain that it doesn't matter. Once I publish there, anyone can read it. So it's okay. That means that automatically you have the means for companies, doesn't matter where, doesn't matter what, whatever you want them to see from you, you publish there, they can get it. So the problem of incompatibility was vanished with this from day one. Now, of course, it's not used yet because you don't have many people within corporations that are not IT related, but rely on IT heavily. Okay, and that have the need to interconnect with systems from other companies that have people tech savvy enough in blockchain to try this and to implement this, etc. So and now, because of the variety of blockchains, like point might arise is, okay, which one should we choose? Should we use Bitcoin? Should we use I don't know, Litecoin? Should we use Ethereum? You know, the cost of transactions, how we, and but that's even the wrong question. The correct question is, what the heck do we want to send to others? Which data do we need to send? Because each one now has a cost, because it's going to be stored forever in I don't know how many thousand computers, and you can imagine that this doesn't go for free. So there's a transaction cost associated. And what are the data that we produce? So you start changing the paradigm or paradigm in on which the company sees themselves and it is as data producers and data consumers, like which data we produce, which data we consume. And you can break down in the business units and ask the same question there, like which data do we produce, which data do we consume. I'll give you an example. The purchase department, they don't know what's needed, but they consume the data from the inventories, and they produce the data from the available cash, for example. Okay, so then the sales department, they might have an order from client, and they produce this data from the within the company. So they get this data from external source, and this through them enters the company. And then you have the inventory people that knows what needs to be served to the clients through the sales department, and they know their inventory levels, so they produce the inventory levels, and they need to inform the purchase department of what's lacking, so they know what to buy and they know when, because they know the client demand. So this is an example, very simple one, of data circulating throughout the company. And then you throw this out to your value partners, for example, in the supply chain, from whom we will buy, like, can you provide us this or supply us with these goods within this time frame? What is your cost? What is your price? Do we have an outstanding agreement of supply, or no, we need to make an ad hoc negotiation? So then you are using this same framework now with an external partner, you understand? And so this is not clear yet in the majority of the companies. And I don't mean that they don't have systems in play. What I mean is that these concepts are not clear in their executives, because usually in those MBA courses, they stuff themselves with cases, but they don't dive into the concept. So whenever there is a new technology that allow an old concept to be incorporated in a different way, they have no clue about it, because they know only to add bananas. They don't know how to add oranges, because the concept of adding is not clear, just the bananas. So sorry for the example, but that's the basic point. And and I'm not talking about smart contract, I'm just talking about information and data going in and out, or business units within a company, and throughout their borders, and that's unfortunate, because we are into what, past 2020, so it makes nearly 40 years that that networking exists. um, Almost, let's say, 35 years, and these concepts are not yet clear. So we have maybe what, one entire generation that was of executives that lived through networking, and they still don't get it. So Bitcoin is a blockchain on itself, whose units that circulate have a price tag. That's the only difference between these and the IP protocol that was proposed in 1985. But at that time, people were not willing to put money on the network package themselves, understand? They were using them, they were relying on them. And nowadays, those very applications that we use, like this one right now for this video conferencing, Bitcoin itself, Netflix, whatsoever, those things run in those very old school, good old protocols. And they are still serving purposes that could not be thought at those days. So to say that Bitcoin is useless just because one does not understand, that's sad on itself. And to see only the value in dollars of one of its units is also short-sightedness. And so What we have is something in between. The units have no value, but the utility that you can get by sending them here and there, that has a value according to some use cases, like sending a message is like sending a letter. It's not important nowadays to get a letter, and send handwritten, but you receive one from your daughter, you love it. That has a lot of value, and it's priceless, and so there's of course a difference between value and price, but the technology in itself is very useful for this interconnection, and it's not owned by someone, so it cannot be bared. Even if someone don't want that you traffic in the network a specific message, you still can. And if you have only centralized providers for that, then they can ban you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do because it's theirs. It's not yours. You're just a client, you know. So this is one thing. Now, when we talk about Ethereum, you can add something else, which is the programmability. You can develop straight on the blockchain itself. It's not the only one that allows that, but was the first one. So it has a different paradigm. It has the concept of accounts. Bitcoin doesn't have the concept of accounts. That's why it does not have smart contracts on it, but it can be the base layer for new layers that are built upon, stacked upon it. And they provide these tools. Like nowadays, the systems do not use IP protocol directly. They use many other applications, protocols that pile up on it. And that's allow us to watch videos, send data, lose money trading, doesn't matter. Those are applications that pile up and rely upon what was built over IP. That's how I see Bitcoin being used as a base layer. Okay, pretty strong, by the way. Now, when you talk about Ethereum, it's kind of a way that you can program directly on its base layer. It doesn't need to be only programmable there. You can program in additional layers above it, but the basic one is already programmable and pretty well done. So that is allows for rules to be enforced in the basic layer. So you can specify contracts or clauses, but then one might argue, wait, but the clauses should be negotiated between parties. That's true. That's true. So it's the idea is not to replace contract in that exists nowadays, a paper contract, okay, where each term can be negotiated. But how many contracts do you make where you negotiate item by item? How many you have only the option to abide or not? Well, that can be straightforwardly, directly implemented in a blockchain. But you need to connect to exterior world. And how do you know that this connection is truthful? How can you trust what they are saying? Well, then you have decentralized way to connect to external sources, and one of them are what they call oracles. I don't mean the company. I mean the blockchains like Chainlink, for example, that allows you connection to data sources that are not native in the blockchain. For example, what's the temperature right now? Okay, so you can use services like that, but how do you have access to this service? Well, you need to pay because someone is providing you information and making sure that thing is reliable. Well, and to have access to this reliability, well, you pay through their token. So that gives them a value, and how can you traffic information in this network? Well, you need to pay the fees to the people that will register that. And how do you do that? Well, you need to buy their coins, which in this case is Ethereum, the other is the Bitcoin. not one, but a small portion of that. So that's it. So then that justifies an economic value for it. This is the second point that I wanted to show. So the first one was the technology as a way of interconnecting systems you don't know where, and this interconnection cannot be stopped because it doesn't have an owner. The second one is this smart contract thing. And when you have more complex contracts, you can break it in clauses. And these clauses, you can break them in minor points that can be agreed upon or not, one by one, and you can form the individual element, or you can refer to a document that contain the clauses, or anyway that is external to the blockchain, but its integrity can be recorded in the blockchain. For example, you have a document, it is scanned, and it is stamped, scanned, digitalized, and its hash, which is a string that represents its content. That one is stored in the blockchain. So whenever someone comes presenting a document, its a hash, it's a string that represents its content should be exactly the same of the one stored in the blockchain. So that's a way to prove that nothing on it was changed. Another way. So finally, one of those misuses that are happening is, unfortunately, people see the world through their eyes, and so it doesn't matter where they look, even if it's different, it's still the same eyes that are watching. So fraudsters have exist everywhere in throughout history, and apparently they're not gonna end soon. So what happened is many are using a blockchain to dodge existing regulation. So they want to issue securities, but they don't want to do this through the already established traditional finance because it's expensive. It doesn't matter why. So what they do is they do something similar to it in crypto. And that is, if that's okay or not, well, that's a legal issue. So it's none of my business from the point of view of commenting, but that's what's happening. So a lot of what's going on nowadays in crypto is securitization, unregulated securitizations. So what's the point? You can make it regulated, but you should then not make public offering, should go to one, and you cannot have more than X investors, and you cannot sell your part uh, before your share before, I don't know how many years, 1 2 years. So there are restrictions, and if you want to go public, if you want, then there is another level of regulations that you should abide, and you always should abide. So that are the point that maybe they see a way out, such players in blockchain. So for example, Tether works as a central bank. They issue coins that are worth $1, and they have never shown the proof that each one is backed by a real dollar, not a debt. How much is worth a debt? Its nominal value? Come on, you know it's not. It's less because there is the default risk, and that implies a discount on the nominal value. So the face value is always less. So then this is just the first point in this thing. So there are many others, and so there will be bad actors, but what the problem that the people are having with the technology is not with the technology, it's with the people itself, because there is a lot of greed. Everybody, not everybody, but nearly everybody wants to smartly get rich quick. Okay, be it the sophisticated venture capitalists, be it the bag holders that Johnny come lately, it doesn't matter. The rule is the same. I want to make a lot while I can, And that behavior has absolutely nothing to do with cryptocurrencies. That has to do with the human nature. And that is a wrong part in the human nature. So if you don't fix that, it will manifest even in, I don't know, banana plantation. Sorry for the insisting the word, but it's kind of nice. And so it's just a new venue for this to manifest. Okay, that's it. That's the point. Uh, you will not find solution for that. You need to live with that, and we don't really need regulation. We don't really need legislation over crypto. It suffices that each one be responsible and understand that this needs knowledge, and knowledge needs learning, and learning takes time and effort. So if you're not willing to put time and effort in it, it's gonna go like anything else that you did in your life, which might not be good. Because if you did something good before and were able to put time and effort until you succeeded or you realize it's not for you, you are mature enough to repeat this process with crypto and see if it is for you or not, and give it the proper time and effort in case you believe it's for you. Well, I believe it's for me, and I've been putting a lot of time of effort on it. So thank you very much for being with us till now. And we wanted to address these points because we believe they have not been properly covered to the best of our knowledge, and these attacks to the technology should be properly defended because, you know, bytes don't speak. Thank you very much. Bye bye.